Psychology in Seattle.
So, Bob, I recently did a deep dive on Schema Therapy. Have you heard of Schema Therapy before?
No.
It's a form of therapy that isn't widely used and obviously not super popular since you've never even heard of it before.
Yeah.
It's not one of the major theories, but I find it to be actually extremely useful. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to modify the theory to my own way of thinking to make it make more sense to me, which I think would be fine to the authors of the original theory. You know, I'm sure they wanted people to expand on it and make it particular to them. And as I'm doing that, I find that I'm trying to find real life examples to apply to the theory, to test it, to expand on it, to give it more life.
Yeah.
And in the 4 or 5 hour deep dive that I did on Schema Therapy, which is available to patrons only, and if people want to listen to it, I published it a couple weeks ago. And yet you got to become a patron to listen to it. As I was making the episode, I started to modify it even during those 5 hours. Mm-hmm. I started thinking, I think I want to change that. I think I want to change that. And so I thought, as a way of furthering my understanding of it, which I think I'm going to actually start using not only with my clients, with myself, with my students, I think it actually is a pretty useful model for therapists to understand their vulnerabilities and their countertransference.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so I thought I would spring this on you and run you through the model and have you tell me how you would apply it to yourself.
Okay.
So there's these different areas, like we go back in time in terms of like core emotional needs that one needs when you're growing up and in your life, and identifying which ones were met and maybe which ones were not so met. And then the development of schemas. As a result, schemas are ways of looking at the world, but they're deep personality traits. They're not just like perspectives.
Yeah.
And then we develop coping styles to deal with those schemas. And then we develop modes that are more general modes that we go into that are a conglomeration of those schemas and coping styles.
Oh, we're talking layers.
Yeah. And then it helps us to understand our vulnerabilities, our self-talk issues, our relationship issues, our sensitivities at work, our emotions, our needs better. I think it's a very good model. But as I said, when I went through the Schema Therapy model that was put forth by Jeffrey Young, I found that some of it didn't really resonate with me. So I thought maybe we'd tease that out together. Yeah. What do you say?
Let's play with it.
And let's see what sort of schemas you have, Bob, as a result of your upbringing. We've talked about that before,
we have.
but not in this way.
Not in this way.
So I'm going to run you through the 18 different schemas that Young put forth and see which schemas, if at all, you might have developed early in life.
So are you saying that a person might have some of these, probably not all of them? Is that the idea? Got it. Okay, yeah, I'm in.
Right. So there's 18 different schemas that Young put forth. I'm thinking about altering them or adding to them a little bit. And they describe them. There's even a measure that I've altered somewhat to make it more easily readable in terms of like, do you agree or disagree with this statement, to test out which schemas you might even have.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. So let's do it and let's see what happens. What do you say?
Sure.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Who are you, Bob?
I am someone who hasn't said no. I'm Bob Gettle. I'm a therapist here in practice in Seattle, and your friend from graduate school way back when.
Yeah, so I sprung this on Bob. He sat down, he came over, and I was like, okay, well, let's just, because I guess there's a possibility Bob would have said, nah, I don't want to do it.
Sure.
Then I guess I would have turned off the recorder and strangled him until he agreed to it. No, just joking.
Yeah.
I would have, I guess, chose a different topic. So thank God Bob is agreeing to this. I'm actually also going to do this with Umberto as well. And to, again, further my understanding of this and give it more. So I'm actually going to look for your responses, and I might even be typing it into my notes to give it more life.
Sure.
More like examples.
Oh,
real life
You
examples.
want it to be robust. Yeah.
Yeah. So this episode is just for patrons of the podcast. So if you want to listen to this episode in its entirety, you have to become a patron of the podcast by going to patreon.com. That's patreon.com. This episode should be about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and we're going to dive into Bob's schema. So go to patreon.com, become a patron, do it now, and do it fast, because I don't know what else to say.